horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, fancied in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft.
It's heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
And a massive warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Inquiry Sunday Sermon, where myself, Lee Keys of systembet.co.uk, is with my partner in crime, as always, John Lane of John Joe's Blogspot. Good evening, John, on the Sabbath.
Good evening, Lee.
Good evening indeed. The weekend, you shone a bit with Bielsa in the Air Gold Cup. That was an inspired choice, especially as I just tweeted just before the race on the Bar Stewards Twitter about you don't want how I draw. So that shoved it right up me. So congratulations with Bielsa. A good pick in another big race winner. We didn't really shine on Saturday, so there's nothing to boast about.
It was a glimmer of light in a very dark and gloomy tunnel, wasn't it?
It was. My only fist pump of the day came from Hurricane Ivor getting up late, and that was about it. Because I mean, if I could say to listeners, I have had the 2 days from hell. It literally has been a bloodbath for me these last 2 days, and that's it. When you do this full time, you sometimes have to take it on the chin. Sometimes we don't. You either read things wrong or you're just not quite on the hymn sheet. And I'd say that was one of my weekends. Bad luck as well, but that's part and parcel. Sometimes we get good rides, good luck. Sometimes we get absolute shite. And this weekend, I felt like lying down in a dark room with some high potent gin. But I've got a pod to do, and it's all about keeping everyone entertained on the Sabbath, because it's dreary on Sunday nights. Who likes Sunday nights these days? Unless you like Yankee egg chasing like Richmond. He'll be watching all that rubbish. John, how did you get on overall on the weekend?
I lost a little bit, which kind of tells you what a saviour Bielsa was. It could have been an awful lot worse. Did me absolute bollocks on Maglev in the Mill Race. I thought
What kind of ride was that, John?
Oh, tell you, mate. I mean, I couldn't understand why he was strangling it at the back there and very little pace on. For me, it should definitely have been in the frame. Definitely.
I think so, at least. You can tell, can't you? We're beating a length and a bit for third, and you're thinking, wait, it's going to make that up with a more prominent ride.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was ultra disappointing. And I didn't actually back it, but I spotted an absolutely disgusting ride from Adam Kirby on one of Claire Cox's late in the afternoon behind that maiden winner.
Oh, the one that they couldn't get enough on, Koi of Baldings. It almost smelt like a bent eat, that. The amount of money, the amount of cash for that was incredible. And then obviously Gosden's pulled on, and then I remember you saying something on Twitter, so I watched it back, and you were spot on. He had that well out of the way, didn't he?
Yeah, and then he did the chicken dance when he looked like he was going to get a bit nearer. And, I mean, he was absolutely inert in the saddle. I could not believe nobody asked him a question about that. I mean, that was ours having its third run. It wasn't a gentle introduction. And, I mean, these are the type of things that your 20 quid each way men are having, and it turns them off the game, because they genuinely come away feeling as though they've had it shoved up their asses. It's not right. I mean, at least ask the question and just say, well, we've got a film of you winning the Mill Race, and now let's have a look at your inner finish compared to trying to ride this. Now explain what you're doing.
It's one for your Jimmy Lindleys that, we've not got a Jimmy Lindley column today, but I'm going to make one now. Jimmy Lindley. John says watch, was it Ascended or Ascending?
Yeah,
like It was in Koi Koi's maiden race at Newbury on Saturday. Give it a watch. Let us know what you think, as always, via YouTube or Twitter. Also, like your views. Sometimes you agree with us, sometimes you don't. But I agree with John. I don't think that it looked a funny. The betting was very, very heavy on the favourite. Ridiculous, too heavy, in fact. And then obviously one of the fancied rivals got a ride to match with obviously Gosden's. Obviously got his mind on other things. Mick Colty was Gosden's. Interesting. So let us know on that. We've got plenty of questions to start the show, and I'll lead in with the first one, which leads into the first subject of the day, which is from Lorne Malvo, one of our contributors, and he said, "Thoughts, chaps, on the long-term implications of the Shadwell downsizing." I'm trying to take this in, John, because this year, in 1 year, we've had the loss of Judd. Well, I mean, the downsizing of Juddmonte. Prince Carl is sadly leaving us, and then obviously with Sheikh Hamdan, that kind of leaves a massive void or potential void with the announcement that they're only keeping sort of a very sort of top class. I can imagine they're just going to keep hold of the top class stuff, but they're even selling the yearlings. The lot apparently is going across the board in every country, America, UK, and this has got. Is this worrying? I mean, it is worrying for racing, of course it is. But does it open opportunities anywhere, or is this bad? Is this real bad?
I think it's worrying for a lot of people who've had a bloody easy time of it and a free ride for far too long, to be honest. Because you've got people there that have been sent, I don't know, maybe they're doing yearlings year on year, and they've done that with them. I mean, he's top horses from the same nucleus of trainers, by and large. The same with Juddmonte, really. And as regards what they are keeping now and selling, all right, they probably won't be as active at the sales. Good. The underbidders will get them, won't they, next time?
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, though. Like, how does it? Surely it's like a supply chain. Surely it affects the amount of breeding going off, or does it? Or does it let? Or does it?
If you've got a tidy brood mare, you're still going to send it to a stallion and send the foal to the sales. You don't give a monkey's who's buying it as long as it's somebody making you a profit.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to you whether it's Shadwell or Nick Bradley.
So what we're saying is then it's possibly or probably going to affect the lesser lights of. I don't like to use the word lesser lights, but as in I'll give an example. Owen Burrows, Marcus Tregonin, probably Prendergast in Ireland, Dermot Weld probably won't get nothing. I'm just guessing that there'll be trainers sort of that used to get them and now won't get any.
It's rightly so. I mean, his ledger must be stuffed full of underachievers, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Considering the amount of money that they spend on these yearlings and that, I mean, you very rarely click on anything that bought at the sales for less than, say, 250,000. It's very rare.
Yeah, there's probably a distinct lack of return.
I mean, if you're using bloodstock agents, I mean, they'll maybe be squealing a bit, but good. I mean, that must be the most overrated profession on the face of the earth.
I must admit, I mean, obviously this is, I mean, if you're, say, a stable staff member working at, say, Owen Burrows or Marcus Tregonin, the news must be quite worrying because, especially if it's your life working or whatever, I'd imagine
working and you're good at your job, I mean, get your ass into Newmarket and get some of these fiery mates out of a job because they can't get decent staff for love of money in Newmarket. So it's racing has for so long considered itself recession-proof, and it needs to look inwardly a bit and rationalise. It's not sustainable to have these. I mean, the man's dead. You have to be careful how you describe him, but I mean, basically, you're talking about idiots just spunking money left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
And if somebody else comes in, don't be surprised if they say, hang on a minute, look at this expenditure sheet here, we're getting no back, there's nil return. I don't want to go to the races, why am I bothering with this?
Yeah.
Those horses that Shadwell would have been buying will still go through the sales ring. It's just chances are that they'll open it up to a bit more competition. And they might go for realistic prices.
I think there's a couple. The winners here are obviously the possibly people like your Nick Bradleys of this world, your people that will happily go to 100,000 to buy something. You might not have to pay 200,000, and so on and so on. I could see them being winners. I mean, next year at the sales will be interesting. And future sales with the yearlings going through and any future stock. I would imagine there'll be a lot of buyers licking their lips at some of them.
Realistic prices paid like for a change,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any economic sense anyway to be paying £500,000 and basically you have to win a derby to get it back.
Well, I sort of looked today that obviously Altior retired this week. Carl Swanson's been on, and Popeye update, he says Champs had his back surgery, so we might get plenty of excuses for Champ this season at some point. Lydia might take control of that one. But yeah, just looking at Altior, and it's amazing, isn't it? The Jumps boys will happily pay, 400,000, sometimes 500,000's been known to pay for point-to-pointers, etc. And Altior, in his entire career, has won 1.2 million. Well, that's Altior. How many go for that kind of money? 200,000-300,000 plus, and earn zilch. It's such a, like you say, it's probably a game where I do think that national.
These people whatsoever, they're paying grossly inflated prices. And they all need to kick up the arse and apply some common sense to the buying. But they need a reality check. There's people out there struggling to eat.
Yeah. It's certainly going to be interesting times what this does, because obviously, we are talking quite a large amount of horses here, right across the world, really. The Hamdan operation, the Shadwell operation is quite large. I mean, looking at some of it domestically, Mark Johnston's had most of them. I wonder, do you know what? There's one thing, this is Racing Post journalists never ask things like this, but I would have, if I could have asked Sheikh Hamdan just one sort of punting question, it would have been, how do you prefer your horses to be ridden? Because if you're sending most of them to the kilt, it must be to me that you like your horses ridden relatively handy, because there's only one way you'd send the majority of your
Jones, weren't they?
Yeah. But remember, yeah. I mean, the old Richard Hills, Harry Thompson Jones, it was literally out and away. And I think
it all stemmed from Tony Murray, because Tony Murray loved to get off in front.
Yeah.
And he was first jockey when the horses were at Tom Jones's.
Yeah, shrewd. I mean, that's as we all know statistically, that's the way forward. Not everyone can make the running, we know that. But in general, the amount of times you see so many trainers want to take leads to teach horses. Dangerous Dave Simcock, our podcast legend. Loves to drop them right out the back of the telly. And I think some trainers are missing a point that we've said it before, when trainers train things one-dimensionally or like approach the game one-dimensionally, as in, right, like Johnson will make the running with most of his tackle. The problem is some horses might thrive somewhere else for being held up. I think that's some trainers are masters.
Was winning with shit when Gary Stevens was there that 2.5 months at the start of that season before he went to the Thoroughbred Corporation, because he was making the running on loads of them. I mean, his Sandown strike rate must have gone through the roof compared to what it was.
Yeah.
Just in that little period. I mean, it was ridiculous how many races Gary won from the front.
What did Stout make to Gary Stevens then?
Well, he's just a bloody good jockey, wasn't he? I mean, he's not big on orders, so I mean, Gary more or less did what he wanted, and
Yeah.
having plenty of winners, right?
Yeah. No, I liked him in Seabiscuit, Gary Stevens. Have you seen that? Have you seen that, John? Yeah. I liked him, basically like he can help to Seabiscuit in a race. So I like that, a bit of help there. He'd probably bet it. Follow me, he says. Follow me. I'll take you into the race, he says. So I remember at film line. It's like, Gary's had 10 on.
Probably what's likeable jockey Stout had, actually.
Yeah. To be fair, I've seen him on
genuinely likeable bloke.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do anything to aggravate you or anything.
Yeah, I've seen him on American sort of like punditry in past, and he is very likable. Brilliant. Yeah. So anyway, back to subject. So Shadwell, John, I'll finish it off. Sad times for me because obviously, I fell in love with like Dejo, Nashwan. There's so many good horses that in these colours that I don't want to see die out. Obviously, there'll be less and less. Could you give me something, either it could be any kind of horse of the past, it could be like a very good horse, or it could be something that, I don't know, kind of dear to your punting memories of Shadwell's that you like the best?
I'll tell you where I will go. I mean, I love Dejo. I thought it was a marvellous sprint. I was never that keen on Nashwan because obviously you'd never get Mate to agree was the best horse in 1989 in a million years. Yeah. And I'm not keen on liver chestnuts either.
I knew you'd say that.
But a horse I had tremendous fond memories of would be a horse that, well, I think he only won one race actually, and that was on my birthday in 1987. I was quite friendly with a lad called Bryn Walker, who was the travelling head lad for Harry Thompson-Jones at the time, and he told me to back this horse called Al Mufti on debut. I think it was at Ascot, and it made its debut. I had plenty on, and it was a nice birthday winner for me. It was horse by Roberto, and it had a similar blaze to Roberto, thin white blaze down the front of its nose and that. And it won on debut, and then it more or less ended up as a nut bar pacemaker in most of the Group 2 and Group 3 races that took place the next couple of years. But yeah, that would be a very dear to my heart horse in the Hamdan colours.
Yeah, there's been many over the years. I mean, I can remember in my mid to late teens, obviously, I can't remember specific names, but I just used to look for Richard Hill's, Harry Thompson-Jones, particularly debutants.
Yeah, we're always wound up.
Yeah, always tremendous.
Short ponies as well, platted up and big noseband on.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, always. Yeah, and that was sort of my angle, because I noticed that a lot of them, were well tuned, and you always got a decent price. It weren't like back in, a Cecil newcomer that was touted, or you'd often get somewhere in region between sort of like, I don't know, a square price, 3s and 7s, that kind of range, because basically they weren't Cecil, they weren't Stout, they weren't they weren't Jeremy Tree. it was kind of, that was the kind of sort of, and for a casual punter like me back then, and studying the game, that was, and you knew, especially at Newmarket, you knew you know, Richard Hill's poof out the stalls in front. Yes, please.
He used to send plenty up to my local as well, Rich.
Yeah.
You used to man debut in a 2-year-old up there. And again, they were always backable, you know, they weren't stupid prices.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's kind of what, when you're a casual punter like I was then, obviously because of my age, but I was taking it seriously. But at the same time, when you've got like fivers and 2 quids and 3 quids to put on, it's no good. Like with the Emery Cecil Hot Pot at 8 to 13, you need to find some value. And Richard Hill's on them front running tracks. Used to love him, but you know, not so much in his latter days. But there we go. Yeah, some fond memories of Shadwell. Very sad. Me and John still sad because obviously it's like you watch eras go by, and you know, I mean, we've had some sad news this week. You know, like with deaths. Boise out of Only Fools and Horses gone today. Jimmy Greaves has gone today. And it's, you just think, as time passes you by, you see all these greats go, and it's quite sad. But anyway, racing moves on. And we move on to our next sort of topic, which is sort of similar, regarding Ballydoyle, John. And I mean, Ballydoyle, there's a lot made of Ballydoyle this year, and people saying, you know, Galileo's, you know, spunk's drying up, this, that, other, needs replacements, they're just not running right. You know, you get everything, you know. But so I looked at the bare stats in 2021, and it's probably one of the most astonishing stats this year, just blind. If you had a pound lay on every single Aidan O'Brien runner this year on Betfair, you would be 70 points up, £70 up, 14.7% up after commission. 14.7%. I mean, that is astounding. 14.7% is what I could hope to do at 9 a.m. at sort of, you know, at Bet365 prices. So, I mean, that's how bad a year Aidan O'Brien's having. The fact that the market's not caught up yet, clearly. The market will catch up at some point. It's still putting his horses in short. There's a lot, you know, every time Aidan O'Brien's got to run over here, they're always in short or artificially short because it's Aidan O'Brien. And for some reason this year, he's a bad year. Now, what do you think is contributing to this?
I think everybody can have a bad year. And I don't think we should be sounding the alarm bells just yet.
Okay.
You know, I mean, he's proved over a fairly long length of time that he's a very, very effective trainer, and Coolmore Stud is a very, very effective production line for top class racehorses, and they have a very, very effective batch of road mares there. They'll just really, by law of averages, should turn out champions most years.
Yeah.
So I think to write him off on the basis of 1 year where, I mean, he could have had something floating around the stable, even a bulldog or anything. I mean, Vincent O'Brien had a couple of lane years, you know, where he couldn't seem to do anything right, and it didn't make him any less of a trainer. I think they're still dangerous. I wouldn't be writing them off just yet. Not by a damn sight.
Interesting, John. I mean that goes against the flow. Sort of, you know, we've had a few comments on Twitter about it, and you know, mostly saying it's probably to his sire, etc. You know, obviously what they're breeding with, and I have noticed a few this season with the heads up a little bit. Which is kind of normal, you know, with that sire line. You Faster Than Light mentioned on Twitter today that they'll probably try and turn St Mark's Basilica into the next Galileo, in terms of, you know.
I mean, even as regards head carriage, though, I mean, a lot of saddlers' Wells houses looked as though they'd had the neck stuff on backwards, didn't they?
Absolutely, yeah. The Northern Dancer saddler, yeah, absolutely.
They were known for sniffing at the stars and what have you.
Yeah.
Again, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. As the operation stands now, I have very, very little liking for it, but I still respect it enormously. I don't like the fact that they're probably standing about 300 broad mares, and you know, it is virtually a production line. I don't like the fact that once a horse has proved it to him, it's not going to be a Group 1 champion 2-year-old. They go into the box madhead pacemaker. I think there's a high degree of wastage from the outfit, but it's worked over a long period of time, and if it works for them, well, you know, who are we to judge, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just go through his strike rate just for the last few years. So 2015, 21%, 2016, 19, 2017, 21, 2018, 20, and then the last 3 years, 2019 was the worst one, 16%, then 17 and 17 last 2 years. He does seem a bit of a struggle to me on the stat. And I look at percentage of runners beaten as well, things like that. You know, like to see if they're whatever. Like you say, it could be something to do with the yard. We all know that it's very difficult for a trainer to stay at the top. You know, for forever.
I think in Aidan's case as well. I don't think people realise he probably is under tremendous pressure, morning, noon, and night. You know, I mean, I sometimes laugh about the gabbling idiot interviews that he gives. You know, where he just basically reads aloud a page from the Coolmore catalogue. You know, and like when he's so obsessed in trying to make stallions. I mean, it was something of a standing joke between us all when Rip Van Winkle kept getting smashed sideways by Say the Stars. You know, I mean, one minute he'd had a triple out bypass before a race, and another time he'd had a broken leg and all this, that, and the other. I mean, everything that could have gone wrong had gone wrong with the horse, hadn't it? But it still managed to finish within shouting distance to Say the Stars. He was talking it over as a champion sire on that. You know, but that's external pressure, and that's the effect it's having on the man. And, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if he's maybe even getting a bit burnt out with it.
Yeah, I think it's like I always liken things to football managers, you know, and I know it sounds daft, but I always think that when you're in a job for a long time and you do the same thing every day and you come in, you take training or like you know, I just think there could be some kind of. Sometimes you like fresh ideas. You know, it's like the wood for the trees kind of thing. Some people need new challenges. Some people need new whatever, and maybe that's just it. It's kind of people are set in the ways, do things in a certain way. Sometimes you think, well, shall we change this? Shall we not? No, it's always worked this. Let's keep it going. And then you're faced with decisions that years ago you wouldn't have even been contemplating because it's working. And then all of a sudden, when it doesn't work, you've then got to think, right, why is this not? And then you start to doubt things. And I just that doubt must, like you say, he must be under pressure. He must be thinking. He must go to bed thinking, this is not. We're not having a good year. This is not quite where we want to be. And like you say, with the pressures to succeed from operation that they're doing. Like you say, it takes a man with big bollocks to basically to keep producing what they've done for years, because, like you said, failure is not an option with that team. So, like you said, John, it could be a bit of pressure, could be everything. Don't know, but interesting, John's comments there. What do you think, everyone? Do you think that O'Brien's that's it? Coolmore's going to be on a bit of a downward spiral for a bit until they can sort the matings out, or is John got a point that it's just literally could be just literally just that's it, that's how the world works. It's a bad year. Interesting. All right, we'll move on. We've got a few questions, but mainly to do with the Kim Bailey story that broke this week, and I was quite shocked. I was quite shocked at the story that broke from the beer. Only £1,000 fine. Syringes found in the back of a truck. Apparently, there's only herbal medicine to the horses. And Ian Davis chimes in and said regarding the Kim Bailey story, he says Gordon Elliott, Kim Bailey, Benoit de la Sayette, Patrick Cowley was equal fair justice meted out to each of this quartet. And on the same note, were the racing media proportionate and balanced in their coverage of all the cases? John, I'll come to you on this.
No, really.
Mm-hmm.
The Elliot one's funny, isn't it? I mean, I don't really know what else they could have done, because I think if they banned him for any longer over, admittedly, a crass and gross act, but at the end of the day, I don't believe the owner filed a complaint or anything like that. A longer ban, you'd have probably been getting into restraint of trade territory. I personally would have liked to have seen him get a year, so he actually served a full jump season, if you like. That said, a ban is never really a ban when they can come and go as they please. I mean, when Vincent O'Brien got warned off, he couldn't go anywhere near his yard. You know, I mean, I don't know what the situation was with Snousy, but I never got the impression she was driving the ship anyway.
No, I didn't.
No. The De La Sayette lad, I mean, you know, to just leave it at 6 months and say, well, he got in with a bad crowd and then that's just it, move on. Again, it leaves an unsatisfactory taste, you know. I mean, let's be fair, he's apprenticed to just about the top stable in the country and he's got in with a bad crowd. No, you know, what the hell is that all about, you know?
John and Thady.
Well, yeah, it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? You know, I mean, has there been any sort of investigation into what's going on at Gosden's, or have the BHA asked Gosden for his opinion on the situation? The press certainly haven't.
Well, the Tory, I mean, you know, the Tory loves it.
Well, that's it, but, you know, the press haven't been saying to Gosden, well, here we go, John, you know, I mean, you've got farm for this, the Tory's been done, and now this young lad's got collared with it. You know, is it knee deep in you? Had or what?
Yeah. How do you stand on how do you stand on cocaine bans then? What's you know, like, so say if a rider's been guilty of you know, on the sniff, what you're head of the BHA, John, and the axe is coming down. What's your punishment?
It's racing society. I mean, in all honesty, I'll just throw your hands up and ban them for 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, whatever. I just think it's all bollocks, to be honest. I don't think, while there's no actual war on Class A drugs, I don't see why we're trying to fight one on one front in racing, to be honest. Yeah. There's the danger aspect if they're high as a kite, but I mean, as far as I'm aware, nobody's actually been stopped from riding because they're coked off the tits. You know, I mean, it's residual amounts left in the system. Well, you know, I mean, if you've got a habitual cokehead riding for you, and he's looking zonked out every time he comes into the parade ring, shall we to God, there should be an amount of self-policing goes on. You know, if the trainer thinks, Christ, this lad's been on the sniff all weekend and he's coming to ride for me on a Tuesday and he's looking half knackered, well, you wouldn't give him any rides, would you? And eventually you'd weed them out. But do the trainers not give a flying shit? Are they not taking any notice? What?
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point there. It's like you say. The thing is, if you say have 8, let's say you go out, you haven't got any rides the day before, you go out and have 8 pints. You're on your arse like Gibbons.
Yeah.
Gibbons had 8 pints. He's finished up at like 9 p.m. And then wakes up next morning, blah blah blah. He can go and ride.
Yeah.
But if you have like you say, it's in you. Like you say, I don't even know like medical science. How long does it stay in your system for? So like you say, you could have it night before. You could have a couple of toots the night before, to be sociable, and then all of a sudden you ride the next day. The testers come in. You've got done, and it's like you say, because it's a residual amount, or it might be over the amount that they stipulate. No one knows what that amount is. And I do think part of it's a bit unfair because it's like, well, if they're fit and proper,
because it should be self-regulating. If somebody's off the tits all the time, a responsible trainer wouldn't be putting them up.
No chance.
So
well, like O'Sheen, obviously he got done for it, and then it was a case of right, you take your. Well, he was quite protesting of it, but he took his punishment. And the point is, if he was a threat to racing and horses, would he be competing for champion jockey this year?
I wouldn't have thought so.
Well, there you go. It's a very good point you make. So yeah, you're right on that. As for the media, John, so why are they not proportioned and balanced?
Because it's right to ask anybody a decent question, that's one of the first things that should have been asked when that De La Sete got done. Well, what's going on at Gosden's then? If we're saying he's falling in with a bad crowd, who's he mixing with? Do you think you have a problem, Mr. Gosden? Frankie Detari got done. What's your opinion? Ask him the question, but they're frightened they're going to upset somebody. I mean. Yeah. It's not a case of accusing Gosden of running a drug ring or anything like that. It's a case of asking him. It's a case of asking him if he thinks there's a problem in his yard and is there anything they can do to help.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just leave it as falling in with a bad crowd. He's apprenticed to someone who's at the top of the tree in this country. So does an apprenticeship mean anything or nothing? There should be some mentoring going on, shouldn't there?
Should be. I mean, this kid obviously very highly touted, and started with a bang. And like you say, if he's fallen into bad crowds, like you say, how does he fall into bad crowds in one of the top yards in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, God help anybody gets apprenticed to John Wainwright, then, isn't it? What they're going to be doing? Mainlining H when they go in the paddock.
And which brings us on now to the BHA and race times. Everyone, I think, on Twitter was like spitting feathers at the lovely Jockey Club racecourses. For now, anyway, Newbury switching to the dark side. And going, well, it might not be the dark side the way things are going. They're going to ARC and ATR soon, Newbury, but Newbury and Newmarket, and what was all that about on Saturday? Busy cards, John, and everybody didn't give a flying fig about making up time. Races were clashing with Ireland. What was that all about on Saturday?
Well, in all honesty, if you got a herd of donkeys and cut their cocks off and throw them all in the boardroom at the BHA and let the donkeys' cocks have a go at the running the sport, you'd probably get a better outcome than what you've got with these upper class squid sat there, not willing to get their arms around any sort of problem whatsoever, not willing to address any problem whatsoever, and just making sure that the park gets passed around in the right direction after they've unleashed the cheese board.
I keep going on about this mental image thing, right? And you always do it to me, and nearly every week, right? So my mental image was you started talking about donkeys, cocks, chopped off, doing a better job. So I'm all seeing these donkeys, cocks sat in the boardroom chairs on a Zoom meeting. You know, like discussing the future of the sport. That's how my mind works. It's terrible. But this is what you do to me. But yeah, he's like you say. He just they've come up with these weird times like 2:37, 2:53, and then they never go off at 2:53. Has anyone told Newbury or Newmarket that? In fact, Andy Richmond was like bleating, like one of them like sheep that's lost on the moors. Absolutely going berserk was Richmond, and he said yesterday on Twitter. He said. First race at Newbury, and they couldn't get them off on, like literally 6-7 minutes late. I mean, this is the thing. There's no excuse for a first race. Why can they not be down? I've noticed in Ireland, if you watch in Ireland, every race, they're like walking round at the start for 5 minutes. In fact, they're dizzy. The amount of walk rounds they do in Ireland, but they're already there at the start. Like there's 3 minutes to the off, and they're walking round. They're all walking round. Doing circles.
In the paddock in Ireland, you've got a little fella in a puffer jacket and a flat cap saying, "Come on, you bastard, get up there." And it works, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In this country, you've got 4 upper class twits trying to pick out the best turned out so some kid can get 40 quid or something and think it's Christmas. And well, it's just pathetic. They're not addressing anything.
I mean, it's a massive put-off to obviously have clashes. I mean, if you haven't got a 60-inch screen, you're wasting your time. I mean, on Saturdays, and it's a turn-off. And this brings us on to an extra topic connected to race times, obviously, with the BHA Chief Officer Richard Wayman announcing that there's going to be more Saturday meetings next year, despite these ridiculous clashes. And Simon Clare said of Coral, he's turned around and said, "No, we punters don't want them. We don't want them. It's not, I mean, you can't digest it." Yet, there's some concerning comments for me from the BHA on Richard Wayman. I mean, I'm sick of these types running this sport because they're idiots. And basically, they say it's to do with offering good prize money to participants, owners, etc. As long as we can do that, we're putting on the extra meetings. Now, he also states it's primarily not there for betting purposes. What kind of cretin and idiot can come up with something that funds the goddamn sport and makes it happen and say it's not for betting purposes? What an absolute, I'll say it, fucking clown. And this is where we're at in the sport. And it annoys the hell out of me that we look at it every day. I'm turned off by it. In fact, I'm even contemplating taking the weekends off because in terms of betting, because there's no liquidity. It's spread right thinly through on Betfair. There's no money to be matched because races, sometimes there's 3 races going off within 2 or 3 minutes of each other. It's pathetic. It's honestly, it's the end, and they're causing the end. It's as if they're wanting all this to end and implode, John.
Well, the only thing that they don't want to end and implode is the salary, the pension, and the company car. The rest of it, they're not giving a shining fuck about, are they? In all honesty, I mean, what he said there is not only outrageous; it's utterly stupid. They're banging these extra fixtures on a Saturday. They've already had a sock to the mental health brigade by saying jockeys can only ride at 1 meeting. I mean, Christ, how the hell are they going to go on these Saturdays when they've got 8 meetings? Nobody's given a thought to that, I mean, Dale Gibson says it's a step in the right direction. Now, about 15 years ago, I wrote into one of these forums on at the races, or whatever the hell it was at the time, maybe the racing channel they called it. And I opined that there was too much racing going on. Dale Gibson told me in no uncertain terms I had to get real and understand the fact that jockeys needed to earn loads of money and they couldn't be messing about with And now, all of a sudden, because he's in a nice cushy office, in a nice cushy job, whereas in reality, he probably ought to be stacking shelves somewhere or chasing trolleys around as the car park.
Correct.
And he's just towing the company line. Everything he says is just in agreement with the BHA all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's amazing the power of cash in this sport, just like it is when the power of cash is applied to horses on a daily basis. But I mean, this for me is dangerous. The path we're taking is, it has been for a while. Obviously, with the deal with the bookmakers, it doesn't work. It clearly doesn't work. Hence the massive prize money gaps. You know, we've got so many problems in racing going forwards with quality horses getting sold abroad because there's no prize money. The BHA are completely oblivious and asleep to everything in this sport. It is absolutely incredible. You know, you can send them an email, and I'll tell you, if you send the BHA an email, and a proper email, or you type it out properly, asking for answers on certain subjects, you'll get a reply, and you'll get a reply saying, can you state evidence of certain instances? I mean, that's all you get. You don't get like, well, we're concerned by this or whatever. For example, the recent subjects on, underground bookmaking. Indian bookmakers.
That's the BHA that will not provide evidence of injuries on watered ground. They will not provide evidence of the success or failure of the Sugar Cup, the Racing League, or any of their other stupid initiatives. They don't want any evidence when it comes to what they're doing, because they just want to sit around at Portman Square or wherever the hell it is now, High Holborn or whatever, and congratulate themselves on a job well done when it's not. It's a stinking job. They're making an absolute balls of this sport.
It is. We're ranting because seriously, this is not going well. And even when even bookmakers, Simon Clare has come out and said, we don't want them. The bookmakers don't want them. So what do the BHA do? Put more on. It's as if they're just trying to ruin it for everyone concerned. And we should be concerned. People should be concerned. And you should make your voices known. The more you shout on Twitter, the more you shout at them on Twitter. You know, if they don't know, I mean, this is it. They're very insular of the BHA. You need to get at them, and otherwise,
that's for sure.
Yeah, it's just racing is one big gravy train for some people, and sadly, when the cash is rolling in, people stay silent on the true aspects of what's needed to be done within the sport. Right, we'll move on to the final question of the show. Edward Shee mentioned about DeBab for the Guineas next year. I have more chance of winning than the Bab in the Guineas next year, so don't worry about that, Edward. Forget DeBab. That's no good. No good physically is DeBab. So I can't have that for Guineas next year. But Jack Punt has also said, who are the best 2-year-old colts and fillies you have seen this season? And do you have any early anti-purse fancies for next year's classics as it stands? John?
Native Trail and the Gosden filly.
Yeah. Do you know what? I mean, it's a Bar Steward special because I completely agree with John in the Native Trail. I saw a monster. I said it on, I think it was last week's show, and I saw a monster at the Curragh that physically as well. He's grown. I'll watch the July Stakes. Anyone watch the July Stakes when he sort of hangs on to beat the Balding one, and then look at him physically at the Curragh. Compare the two, and he dwarfs Point Lonsdale. That's what I'm saying. He's grown. It could be the old, the old, whatever. But anyway,
starts with stay and ends in rain.
It could be, but he looked a monster at the Curragh. I mean, he was sort, in a way, he was rolling around sort of 2 out, 1 out at the Curragh as he's trying to get on terms. And then in the final furlong, geez, did he take off? And I think that was it for me. As soon as I saw that, I went, wow. Nothing. I mean, I know it's Newmarket, and what I'd advise anyone at Newmarket is he's 6-4 anti-purse for the Dewhurst. They'll go the Dewhurst. They won't go the Doncaster route because no one wants to win the Futurity because you end up winning a St. Ledger if you go that one. But I would say he goes Dewhurst. He's 6-4 to win a Dewhurst. I think it'll be 4-6 on the day, probably shorter. And because I think the race will cut up. And
there's no lurkers at the minute, is there? You know, I mean, you'd need an incredibly impressive maiden winner or something to absolutely yag up in the Somerville this week.
Yeah.
You know, and the only thing that looks like yagging up in the Somerville is theirs as well. That 1-1 Caribus or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, they won't clash. So I mean, 65 West mental really.
I think 6-4 is an absolute steal for Dewhurst. You won't see odds against on there, but obviously, if you play the sport like I do, I'll guarantee you because it's Newmarket as well. You'll get bigger. You'll get whatever SP it goes off. You'll get bigger because if you watch him at the Curragh, he doesn't quicken instant. It's not like this instant whoosh where it's like you know. It takes him time to sort of like get into that stride. And I think with the
if
dip,
he does that again, probably get a bit of a wobble on in the dip, won't he?
yeah, it's one of them where it might not look as impressive as what people might be expecting on the day. He might sort of look a bit more struggled at Newmarket because you got to deal with a dip. But I reckon when he comes out at dip, it'll be just woof. And I think that's it. It's one of them. You need to be playing and running for that. I think to get the best value. So Jack, Native Trail, I would happily say he's already a Guineas winner for me. Physically, he's looking the part, and it's strange because he was a breeze up by, which is
He very nearly got it in the book, hasn't he? Now to won a Guineas.
Yeah.
You know, it's just about achieved what you need to, the level you need to hit, really.
I'll be surprised if anything, unless he gets injured or any problems. I'll be surprised if there's anything in between now and then that usurps Native Trail.
Anything that comes out like from now starts its career like I don't know any time from this week, and improves past him is probably going to be a super champion.
Agreed. I mean, it could happen, but me and John both think he's a champion already. So, hope that answers your question, Jack. To finish the show, I have a couple for this evening. Sunday nights are boring, so hopefully before you go to bed, this will provide some extra needed funds. A couple of grade ones tonight at Woodbine. It's the juvenile races. Dettori's still hanging around over there like a bad smell. He's riding both the Godolphin favourites in the 10.06 at Woodbine and the 10.39. I think both Godolphin horses are overrated in terms of pricing. I'm not saying they won't win. I'm just saying that Al Baha in the 10.39 is the wrong favourite. I'm saying that in the 10.06 at Woodbine, what Dettori rides shouldn't be favourite. And I've got some selections for you. 10.06 race, Cardio Princess at a massive 25-1. This is an enormous price simply because she managed to win over 5 furlongs on a debut, John. And when I tell you that she's by Heart's Cry, that was third in the King George, out of a See the Stars mare, and she steps up to a mile tonight from 5, straight from 5. Never mind all this. Well, we'll go 5.5, 6. Mark Cass is a very, very shrewd 2-year-old trainer over there. He's got 4 in this race. This is the outsider of the 4. But the thing that I think that punters always overlook is, it's scrambled in a maiden. Well, if I got a King George, a horse that was third in the King George, that's the daddy, and the mommy was the mommy's mom was a See the Stars mare, I'd be thinking, wow, like I've managed to win over 5 furlongs. That's just incredible. You won't see this very often over here. If that happened over here, we'd be raving about it. And I think this is very underlooked at 25-1. And I would have this probably in single figures around the 9-1 mark. I priced the race up, and I think this could be a fabulous each way bet on the step up in trip. That's the first grade one. That's for the fillies, the Natalma. And the second one is in the 1039. I've got a two-pronged attack here because Al Baha they've put in very short. Obviously, Godolphin, Frankie de Torre, they all love it. Blah blah. The prices are completely wrong because the key race here is the Soaring Free listed race at this track over 6.5 furlongs. Long bursting fractions were set in this, and I say this, incredible fractions. Like 44 for the half. It was 108 at the finish. It was like it was serious fractions. And the two at the head of the affairs were First Empire and Degree of Risk, who pulled well clear of everything else. This is the key race. It's better form. I get some good cards in America from Thorograph, and they rate the performances on time and trips they've had. And the two that stand out massively over the favourite are First Empire, again by Mark Cass, who's a master 2-year-old trainer over there, the same trainer as the first selection. First Empire is 3-1, and Degree of Risk is the Godolphin runner, but he's trained by Harty over there. So it's a Godolphin runner. It's just not trained by Appleby and de Torre. Yeah. Well, for me, Degree of Risk, I thought shaped with more credit than First Empire because he made the ground into the teeth of the race and wide. And he kept going they both kept going really nicely. Both in the pedigrees will stay. And I thought Degree of Risk at 10-1, massive. First Empire 3-1 should be favourite. Those two, double-pronged attack for the last race. Have a real good Dutch bet. I thought I was really confident on. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a nice finish to the day at Woodbine for Bar Stewards listeners. So I hope that helps you out. I did watch them all. I've studied the race and I've priced it up. So hopefully we can finish the weekend on a high after some ordinary tipping from us on Saturday, barring John in the Air Gold Cup. So I hope you've enjoyed this show. We're back with a special, by the way, on Tuesday. A strange one, yes. Catherine Fry is back with us on Tuesday because we're going to be looking at some Listowel races for our Irish listeners later in the week. Catherine's very excited about the card. Me and John will chuck in. But Miss Fry is worth listening to on any occasion, and certainly when there's an Irish festival. And Listowel is close to her heart, and she thinks she's got some good choices for the rest of the meeting from Tuesday. So we're going to do a Bar Stewards special on Tuesday with me, John, and Catherine. So that's something to look forward to. And then we're back on Friday to cover the Cambridgeshire meeting, where me and John are riding Uncle Brinham in the Cambridgeshire anti-post. And we've got Quentin Franks on Friday to offer his expertise. A lot of good feedback from Quentin's first show. So hopefully you'll tune in on Tuesday and Friday this week. Some good shows to look forward to. So I hope you've enjoyed it. That's all from me and John. Bye for now.